Well, what a pleasure and an incredible treat to have the chairman of Special Olympics with us, Tim Shriver. Tim, what an honor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, the honor is mine. I mean, if I could hit one or two free throws out of 10, I'd be happy, not to mention 100 an hour, not to mention for 24 hours. So I'm in awe of what you're doing on the court and off the court, and really, really proud to be able to lend my voice in support of this extraordinary gathering of people and collection of goodwill that our movement needs, but our country needs also.
We do, Tim. And, we're just doing our little part here in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. But this crazy idea has actually worked. And we couldn't be more proud of what Team Antonelli has been able to put together with all the people that have jumped in to help us. And it's not just raising awareness, we've been able to raise some money. I know people try to do fundraisers all around the world and try to help make a difference. We're just trying to do our small part. It really means a lot that you would join us on the 24-hour live stream.
Well, the thing, Debbie, is, like you say, small part, but I hope no one actually believes that. I hope everyone knows that that everyone's small part is actually huge. That the small gifts we bring, when we put them together, can work across all kinds of walls and barriers and obstacles. The things we think we can't change. We sometimes think, oh, this is too big, or that's too difficult, or that's never going to change. It's only by small actions that we actually reverse that. I'm sitting here on the shoulders of my mom, who said at the end of her life, all I ever did was teach children with special needs how to swim. And in some ways, she couldn't have been more wrong, but in some ways, she was right. It was her small gift that made so many other people feel safe and comfortable and empowered to give their small gifts. And together, then that's when we become, no one does anything big on their own. We're all doing something small, but the small is big. That's my message. And I hope everybody who's volunteering, everybody who's giving, everybody who's joining in the live stream will recognize that by participation, you send out a message that we can make the world more inclusive, that we can break down walls of discrimination and bias, that we can open the doors of our schoolhouses and our community centers and our sports organizations and our places of employment and transportation and housing. We can do all those things. None of them are too big to change if we work together and each add what is small by ourselves, but which is big together.
That's why you're the chairman of Special Olympics. You're the voice, you're the face, you're the one that helps sell in so many different areas and so many places around the world. You mentioned your mother. She's a role model of mine. I often think about her while I'm training because I know how hard it is to do what I'm trying to do, but I also know how hard it was to do what she did when she first started Special Olympics. Can you describe a little bit about the history there and what your mom has meant?
Yeah, well, my mom grew up in a time when a person with an intellectual disability was a family shame. Most people would have hidden their children. Sadly, many people gave their children up for adoption, which they thought was adoption, but was really institutionalization. But my mom had the great privilege of having grandparents who decided to keep their daughter home with them so she could grow up with her brothers and sisters. Rosemary, my aunt, who had an intellectual challenge, grew up around her brothers, Jack and Bobby and Joe and Teddy, and she grew up around her sisters, Kathleen and Eunice and Pat and Jean, and they all grew up together as a family. So my mother knew that her sister was beautiful. She knew her sister had gifts, and that the world said she didn't. She knew it was a lie, right? She knew it was wrong. And she didn't have to read it in a book. She didn't have to, come and study it in a course. She knew the world was wrong about her sister. So it gave her a certain fire, Debbie. It gave her a certain passion, prove people wrong who honestly she knew were wrong. So when doctors told her these children were hopeless, she said, that's not true. And when policymakers said, there's nothing that can be done for these children, there's no point in bringing them to school, she said, that's not true. That's wrong. And that kind of passion made her, when we moved to Washington, when I was just 2 years old, a couple of mothers called her and said, there's nothing for my child. And she said, not anymore, there isn't. There's something now. Bring your child to my house, and we're going to have some games and some activities, and I'll teach your children to swim. And that was it. It was just that impulse that built up anger that built up love and compassion, that built up faith in humanity, and honestly, a natural love of sport. I mean, my mother, in the middle of the 20th century, grew up as a woman who loved to compete and who loved sport. She loved to swim. She loved to play football. She loved to play tennis. She loved to sail. But you put her in any, just say, let's have go out and rally for a minute. And before you know it, she'd say, I'm up 3-0. Uh, so she loved to compete. I was like, whoa, I thought we were just rallying. No, the last 3 points I've won them. So she loved to compete. And, all those things came together to make it possible for Special Olympics to have, for us to have the license, for the rest of us to join in. And as you said at the beginning, give our small gift. But it was, it's each of us doing that. People are looking at you, Debbie, and they're going, wow, look at what she's doing. Wow, maybe I could do my small thing. Maybe someone's in 5th grade or 6th grade watching. And they say, maybe in my school, I could go out and shoot baskets after school with the kids who are in the special education program. Maybe I could sit with them on the bus. Maybe I could go down at the cafeteria and include them at my table. And then you've got small plus the small plus the small, and we got the big. That's what my mother really wanted. One of the reasons she built the Special Olympics movement on the backs and on the shoulders of volunteers is because she wanted average people to take ownership and participate in this movement, because she felt it was by bringing all people to the experience of seeing the beauty she knew was there that we could change the culture. If it had just been hired hands, so to speak, then professionals would have taken over the movement. But she wanted all of us in, everybody's small gift to make a giant gift possible.
Tim, I'm listening to you and I'm trying to keep the emotions in check, because just the description of what you call small things are things that as parents, what we want to have our kids to be included. You're telling this story, I'm sure it feels like it's the first time you've told it. You say it with such great passion and there's such power behind it, because we both know that everything that you said is absolutely true about inclusion. I'm looking at the corporate world today, and I'm starting, because now my advocacy has shifted from the IEP process to the employment process, right? With my son, Frankie, he's 25, and I'm starting to see a lot more diversity and inclusion and acceptance across corporate America. Even companies in their HR are starting to put together divisions in their human resources where you're making sure that you're employing people with intellectual or physical disability. How about the push there with what Special Olympics could do? Everyone knows about the athletic side of it, but what about some of the other things that Special Olympics can do?
Well, we've known for a long time, Debbie, that participation in sports, this is true of all sports, participation in sports contributes to a lot of things that are not just learning how to dribble a basketball or learning how to shoot with your left foot if you're playing soccer. Yeah, you learn the sports skills, but you learn teamwork. You also learn confidence. You know that you have a role to play, that you're indispensable on your team. You learn how to build relationships and friendships, because sports requires not just getting to the game and scheduling the game and laying out the field and timing and scoring the game and getting people fed after the game. It takes a whole community, right? So you've got to build all those things. And maybe, most importantly, it builds an enormous amount of grit. You know that some days you're going to fall short. No athlete is undefeated. Michael Jordan famously says, I missed, 22,000 shots or something like that. So the greatest amongst us still knows how to try really, really hard, persevere really hard. And when you don't make the mark, to continue on. Now, why am I saying all these things? These are extraordinarily important employment skills. Employers are looking for people who are responsible, who are gritty, who know how to be on a team, who know how to build community, who know how to get along with others, who are willing to sacrifice themselves for the larger mission of the organization, the company, whatever movement they're in. Our athletes are extraordinarily well prepared for the workplace, even though we don't run any courses, so to speak, on the workplace. It's the inner skills, the social skills, the emotional skills that are developed in sport that make our athletes such extraordinary employees. So the movement is eager to make that case to our corporate sponsors and friends around the world, and we are increasingly doing so. And with our as you know, Debbie, we're training more and more athletes as leaders. I wish every single athlete that participated in the movement could also have a chance to be a part of the athlete leadership program, because there we can actually train people in some of those skills that will actually allow them to show off what they've learned on the playing field. But we've got to do better. The statistics are bad, but somewhere between 70 and 80% of our community is not employed full time.
Mhm.
And a huge percentage of them don't earn a standard minimum wage. That's not acceptable. This movement was designed to break down walls of discrimination and oppression and misunderstanding and fear. We've got to do that now when it comes to giving people a full life, which includes, yes, access to early childhood, yes, access to sport and physical education, access to school, but also access to community living and work. It is the job in the end that for most of us from whatever age we enter the job market, whether it's 16 or 17 or 18 or 20 or 25, whatever age, hopefully we have long lives. 20, 30, 40 years of our lives will be spent in the workplace. Our athletes, our community deserves that chance.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here under Team Antonelli. Frankie graduated from the Clemson Life program. I know you're good buddies with Jim and Beth Clements.
Yeah.
As he's the president of Clemson, he's living and working with support in Clemson. He's got a couple of roommates, and he's doing it, and it's just absolutely amazing. It's amazing. He didn't want to come home. He doesn't want to hang out with us anymore. He wants to do his own thing. So it's pretty cool.
Now you're going to have all the people from all the competitive schools to Clemson calling us and saying, wait a minute, what about Alabama? What about all these other places? But Clemson is doing a fantastic job. Jim Clemens, your president there, also a member of our board, is a terrific advocate for this work. We got to take that around the country. We can't have 10 or 15 universities. We got to have hundreds, thousands of universities and colleges and higher education institutions welcoming our athletes and welcoming them so they can stay and work after school.
I'm with you on that. I'm doing my part at North Carolina State University right now.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
So last year we were in Orlando. This year you're going to be in Germany for the games. Tell us a little bit about that and why that's important to take the games around to different places.
Well, there's nothing like a Special Olympics World Games to change a community, to change attitudes. State games in North Carolina or South Carolina, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10,000 people will come and local news will cover it. And it will have this extraordinary effect. Same thing is true on the world stage. We go to Berlin, we go to one of the great cities of the world, but a city with a very difficult history, at least in our most recent time, a city that exemplified hatred, a city that exemplified division, a city that exemplified violence and war. It was at the center of so much of the last century's challenges. Today, it stands as an icon of the capacity to move and change and repair the faults and flaws and fears and damage of the past in a way that exemplifies what's possible in the future. So to be in Berlin with 6,000, 7,000 Special Olympics athletes from 180, 190 countries to speak to the world about people always say to me, well, who do you look to for leadership in how to heal the wounds in the world? All this divisiveness, Debbie, it's like a cancer in our bodies. Anger, hostility, contempt, hatred. I hate those people. I hate those people. I can't stand that group. I can't abide what they think. I mean, it's like a cancer. People say to me, well, who do you think is going to help us overcome that? I say, look to the athletes of Special Olympics. You want an example? Watch. Come to Berlin. But I say, watch our athletes. These are people who have experienced all kinds of discrimination, and yet over and over again, they open their arms, they welcome difference, they take a chance on us. I gave a graduation speech this year at the University of Utah, and my theme was take a chance on each other, and I chose those words because I think our athletes take a chance on us. So many, I'm sure you could tell 100 stories about Frankie being told no over and over again or being left out. But I'm guessing for some reason, he still takes a chance on people. he doesn't feel, I hope, defeated by the difficulties and challenges of life. That's what the rest of us have to learn how to do. We have to learn how to take a chance on each other. In Berlin, we will try to send that message to the world.
I don't know how anybody can not listen to you, Tim, and feel drawn to everything that you're saying. I mean, even if you
I
have
have
never,
good teachers. I have good teachers, Debbie, as you know. I have very good teachers.
yes, you did. You had some of the best teachers, obviously, by the way you've been able to conduct the business and direct Special Olympics and keep it in the forefront of a lot of people's minds, especially now. I know where your leadership comes from. I'm assuming the motivation comes from a similar source, or is there a different source?
Well, I look around the world and I think I got the best job anybody has. I have a front row seat for the best in humanity. And I get to meet people like you and Frankie and Jim. We talk about Jim Clem. I mean, I get to meet the most extraordinary human beings on earth doing the most courageous and brave things. Uh, I mean, people say, "Isn't it nice that what you do, Tim?" Or "That's so good that you're." I'm like, I'm the most selfish person on the planet. I have the best job. I get to work with the best human beings. I get to see endless streams of hope coursing out into the world, and I get to just grab onto some of those streams and ride. We all have our ups and downs, and we all have moments of sadness and loss. We all have moments of triumph and victory. But a big part of life is learning how to keep a focus on the reasons we each have to believe in each other and ourselves and in our faith, if that's part of your life. I find in this movement thousands and thousands of reasons a day to believe in us, believe in myself, even, and to believe that I'm part of something much bigger than anything I could ever possibly imagine. And so, the sustenance it's the daily food of the Special Olympics movement and all the work that surrounds it that keeps me going. And so far, it's been nothing but fantastic. A
Well, you're
few
going to,
HR and budget problems sometimes creep in there, but
yeah.
if we could just raise the money we need and make sure we have the best people, and we do have extraordinary people. If we can solve those problems, the rest is just pure joy.
Well, you have propelled us through the night, deep into the hours to be able to finish this task, Tim. I'm so grateful for your time. I know what a busy guy you are, and I know how hard it is to get on your schedule. And I'm so grateful that you gave us some time
Debbie,
on
thank
24
you
hours.
very much. 24 hours. Thank you. Keep those eyes open. Keep the forearms and the shoulders strong. Continue to inspire us. We will follow you, and together we'll do extraordinarily important things for the inclusion revolution. I can't thank you enough for leading and for including me in it.